For all the most up-to-date information on Carlton's programmes, with details on films and programmes up to a day in advance, there's a new teletext service called Carlton Plus, starting on page 600.
Good evening, I'm Anna Maria Ash. This is London Tonight. First, an explosion and fire ripped through a house in Upper Norwood this afternoon. The building was gutted, but no one was hurt. Mark Jordan reports.
When the explosion went off, the fear was that 3 people were trapped. That's not now the case. The blast wedged neighbours' doors, sealing them in until the fire service arrived.
Well, I was washing the car just out here and I heard a big bang, loads of glass, and went running down there. And see, the house was no house left, you know, just it's all on fire. Just a big ball of flames. It was you couldn't see, you just see parts of the furniture inside the house just all on fire. There wasn't nothing left of the house. It was only part of the roof left.
I heard a thump, just as if there was a bomb had gone off. All the windows shook and the door shook. I went upstairs and I rang 999.
A shock for one fireman rushing to the blaze when he realised it was the house next door to his. Tonight, police are investigating the possibility that this was caused by a domestic dispute, but quite how a domestic dispute could turn into this is still unclear. This is Mark Jordan for London Tonight.
And there was another explosion this evening, this time in West London. One person suffered burns and 2 shoppers were treated for shock following a blast at a food and wine store at Pembridge Road in Notting Hill. The road was sealed off while the cause was investigated. It's thought the explosion happened after lighter fuel was stored near a heater. Other news now, and a childminder was blamed today for brain damage suffered by 2 baby boys in her care. She could now face criminal charges after a High Court judge ruled that the children's injuries were caused by severe shaking. Phil Bales spoke tonight to the mother of one of the boys.
I'm a fighter. I would never have let it drop, and I always said that. If it took me 20 years, I'd have still fought.
Thomas Harrison is brain damaged and partially blind. Injuries inflicted on him by his childminder. And he wasn't the first baby to be permanently disabled in her care. After 4 years, Thomas's mother finally won her fight to prove both the childminder and a county council were to blame.
What happened to Thomas should never have happened, and I've always said that from the outset.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I should have been made aware of the other incident with the other child, and I was not, and that's where they failed in their duty.
The childminder, Christine Walton, was also responsible for serious injuries to a second baby, to Simon Hewitt, just 3 months before she shook Thomas so violently she disabled him for life. The childminder was registered with Surrey County Council, who investigated that first attack. But the council failed to warn Thomas's mother when she checked on Mrs. Walton.
With the value of hindsight, you can see it's plumb crazy that the Walton's registration wasn't cancelled after the first incident.
The judge accused Surrey's official in charge of childminding of bumbling inactivity in failing to alert Thomas's mother. For the childminder, the consequences of 2 seriously injured children could be much more severe. The solicitor acting for Thomas says new evidence could convict the childminder of criminal offences. And further court proceedings will determine compensation for Thomas. This is Phil Bales for London Tonight.
3 dustmen in West London who were said to have asked customers for Christmas tips were sacked today. The men's colleagues walked out earlier this month when the row first broke. They too were then sacked by the private firm that collects refuse for Kensington and Chelsea Council, but they were later reinstated. The Transport Workers Union will now ballot the bin men about strike action. The Hackney head teacher who stopped her pupils seeing Romeo and Juliet, saying it was too heterosexual, said sorry today. Hackney Education Director Gus John said she accepted that her ideological considerations were wrongly applied to the play. The Prime Minister stepped into the row, telling the Commons today that the ideology of political correctness was widely unpopular among parents. The Princess Royal launched a new high-tech scheme today to protect schools and children against crime. School Watch links head teachers and police in a network to combat child abductions, drug dealing and other dangers to youngsters. From today, the heads of 39 schools in Basildon carry electronic message pages. They're linked to police so that warnings can be flashed to other schools. Finally, accolades for the elderly. A magazine today named the winners of its Oldie of the Year awards. Vince Rogers reports.
Never has so much been owed by so many to the elderly. Ken Livingston is a judge for Richard Ingram's Oldie magazine, and he chose Francis Urquhart for one of the prizes. But did it involve some underhand backstabbing? I understand there's been some possible backroom double dealing and even possible vote rigging in respect of your award. Is that true?
Well, you might very well think that. I couldn't possibly comment.
Over at Simpson's in the Strand, there's a convivial atmosphere as those who are past their prime gather for the main awards ceremony. The Oldie magazine, with their slogan, "Buy it before you snuff it," has gathered together the glitterati of the over 50s. There's more wrinkles in this room than at Prune Factory on overtime. So what's it like being old?
I have no option.
No, it's all right, you know. Don't worry about it. You've got a long way to go before you join us.
Sir Dennis Thatcher got one of the prizes, and if that wasn't enough to send the adrenaline racing through furred-up arteries, the main award went to Judge Stephen Tumin. What's it like being old?
It's marvellous. It's much better than anything else you can imagine. It means you get given flasks of whiskey.
Oh, I left mine behind.
You haven't lost your flask of whiskey, have you?
Well, I have, but you just asked what it feels like being old. Well, all I can remind you is of the alternative.
And what does Erin Dawes think of your award?
I haven't discussed it.
In central London, this is Vince Rogers for London Tonight.
That's it. A very good night to you.
Hello, you'll be pleased to hear the mild weather is staying with us, at least until Saturday, when those temperatures start dipping down again. Let's start with a satellite photograph. You can see that the southeast of England is quite clear tonight, but there will be a build-up of cloud during the course of the night, but plenty of clear spells too. This is the picture for tonight then. Maybe a little light drizzle around, but nothing to be concerned about. Those temperatures very mild, 7 or 8, that's the mid-40s. In the morning, it's really going to be lovely. Quite a lot of sunshine around. Temperatures gradually building up during the day, so by tomorrow afternoon, temperatures right up to 10 or 11. That's the lower 50s, quite remarkable. The afternoon not quite as good as the morning. The cloud will start to thicken and there is the chance of drizzle.
In 30 minutes, the return of Carlton's weekly guide to entertainment in the capital, which begins its new series on a healthy note, down at the gym, trying out ultimate equipment in fighting flab. That and much more with Carolyn Marshall and Gordon Kennedy at 11:10.